Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the meeting of the Skokie Plan Commission for October 3rd. And glad you're all here tonight. Just my little primer here is that we are an advisory commission to the Board of Trustees. The decisions that we come to tonight is our recommendation to the board, and the board will have a final vote on the issues before us tonight, and they meet on the first and third Mondays of every month. As we proceed, we need to approve the minutes from the last meeting. Commissioner Axis, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes, minutes have been approved. I will proceed with bringing the petitioner up. I'll call the case number, have the petitioner come up, and he will present his, make his presentation, after which we will have the staff make their presentation of their staff report, and then we'll have a rebuttal from the petitioner, and then I will open the floor to anyone in the audience who has a question or comment on a related case. So without further ado, first case tonight is case 2019-32P, parking determination at the Howard Street Delivery Station. Yes, we had this case before, didn't we?
Yes.
Yes. This is an update of the parking from the last case?
Correct. I mean, I'll let the petitioner speak, but we did hear this case in August. At that time, Amazon had just announced that they were going to be going into this facility, and they had done their parking determination so they can get themselves going. And did you actually open yet?
The first.
Yeah, on the first. So in my report, I had stated that they may come back for a revision once they get actual numbers or better data, and they've gotten a better idea of what their floor plan is and their ridership. So.
And the petitioner, could we have your name and address?
My name is Greg Skovich. I'm with the property owner, Hillwood, and I have brought along with me the technical consultant as well as the user who can speak more intelligently to why we're in front of you again tonight. I think Steve hit it on the head. When we initially came in front of you guys, the user was taking some conservative assumptions on how the facility was going to operate. Since then, they've drilled down on the design and realized that they had over-planned when we originally presented to you guys, as well
Okay,
as
excuse me, before you proceed, can I ask, I'm going to swear all three of you in, okay? So if all three of you raise your hand, please. Do you affirm that the testimony you give tonight is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but truth to help you?
Yes, sir.
Counselors, a notice needed in this case?
Notice is not required.
Thank you. I'm sorry to interrupt. Proceed.
That's okay. So ultimately, through the course of design and through the course of their operational studies, Jamie, please correct me if I'm misspeaking, they determined that they had significantly overshot the capacity that was required when we originally came to you guys. Since then, they've learned the operation specific to this facility and the actual real estate that they have available to them, and they are much more educated on the parking requirements, which was subsequently resubmitted to you for consideration this evening.
Okay. Could you kindly go over the plans we have in place now for the parking?
Sure. Good evening,
Good evening.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners.
Your name, please?
Yes, my name is Jamie Flynn. My address is 963 13th Avenue East in Seattle. So what we had originally planned for, just to back up a little bit, Amazon goes 1,000,000 miles an hour, and we submitted parking numbers for a template design, thinking that's what we were going to put at Dill 7. Once we got into it, the building couldn't actually hold as much material handling equipment as we thought. So we significantly reduced the number of packages that will actually be flowed through that building every day, which is why the original number of 1,100 was reduced. We actually, funnily enough, have capacity for 1,100 cars right now because we have 4 off-site lots as well as the on-site capability for parking. So right now we're in very good shape. We are working on a build-to-suit parking lot, which will deliver probably in the spring. And then the idea is to phase out some of those off-site lots as we gain more parking on-site with some additional on-site work, as well as the build-to-suit lot. So we do have capacity now. We have enough for peak 19, which we ramp up. We're not going to be fully operational at peak capacity until peak of 2020. So that's, end of November, December of next year. And we will have adequate parking once we are at full capacity in 2020.
Okay. How far away are some of the off-site lots?
The off-site lots are generally around 2 miles away. 3 are on Toohey Avenue and 1 is on Irving Park Road.
And do you have a shuttle service from those lots?
We do not. We have the capability to house all of the associates who will be working actually within the facility on site. And then the off-site lots are for our DSP drivers. There are third-party van drivers who will come to the off-site lot in their personal vehicle, park their car, pick up their van, and then drive it to the
Oh, I
facility
see.
to load up for
Okay.
packages. And then they'll do the reverse at the end of the day.
Are these lots secured?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay.
And that's not standard for our off-site lots. We have a gazillion of them over the, course of the country. So the van drivers know, they get in their van, they get to the station, and then they go back.
Security.
We do, though, have marshals there at the lot, sort of directing traffic and making sure everybody is doing what they're supposed to be doing during the busy time.
Okay. Any questions of the petitioner?
Just when you had said that you intend to build an on-site lot for increased capacity,
I wasn't clear. Thank you for the
whether it was
question.
on-site or off-site?
There's both. So we are doing some additional work on-site. We have to do some work over a detention pond, is that correct, Greg? Which will give us more on-site spots. In addition to that, we have an off-site lot on Oakton, on this street, that we're in the process of purchasing, and then we will construct a parking lot there.
That'll be for that same purpose of swapping out
Yes.
Amazon vehicles for personal
Correct.
vehicles.
Associates will always park on-site, or we'd have to shuttle.
On-site, either on-site of the site on Howard or the new site that you build on
No,
Oakton?
the Oakton Street will just be for vans because it's not located right there. We want our associates to not have to take a shuttle or walk over a quarter of a mile. So we want them right at the station.
And that would be the construction of this lot over the water retention.
Correct, but we also have enough capacity right now for all of the associates to park on site.
So, and at each of these stages, you're going to come back to us, and or I'm not sure if you are, or whether they need to come back to us to ask us for permits to move forward on these different construction projects?
Commissioner, are you asking me?
I am asking, that's why
Yeah.
I realized it wasn't so much.
When we went through this the first time, they had to deliver 1,100 spaces before they could get their occupancy permit. They have done that, knowing that they're going to cut back. What we are approving, or the question before you tonight, is they're in 2 phases. So between now and right before they have to ramp up a year from now, how many spaces are needed, and then after that, what the spaces are needed. So as long as they operate in compliance with the plans that they gave us, which I didn't give to you guys because they're super complicated, but we kind of haven't mostly figured out, then that's what they can continue to do in perpetuity. So they have to have the number of spaces available consistent with our ordinance, which is to have a signed lease during that time period. And then, to continue operating, they always have to have the number of spaces that they need to have.
And we'll absolutely get whatever building permits we need to construct that lot.
They've
for
been
sure.
very good with that, so.
Right. Any other questions to the petitioner? Do you have anything else to offer?
I think that should do it, I hope.
Okay. Does the property owner have anything to say, or?
Thank you all for
we're all
seeing us
good?
again
Okay.
this evening.
All right, then at this time, if you could sit down, I'll have the staff give us its
Thank you.
report. And the staff is being Steve Marciani.
It's me. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to respectfully request that the report for case 2019-32P be submitted into the record as presented.
Request is granted.
I really don't have too much to add, other than to say that we are waiting for MWRD permits to construct the rest of the on-site parking spaces. That takes some time, as we know, which is why they've gotten the off-site locations at this time. I believe staff is ready to issue the permits on our end, but we have to wait for MWRD to finish the review. That's why I don't know exactly how many spaces are going to be there. But so we are recommending that between, once whatever you pass tonight until basically September 30th of next year, that they have 588 spaces available to them. And then from that point forward to have 850 spaces available to them.
Okay. Any questions of staff?
Paul,
Yes.
I suppose I should have asked this, the petitioner, but I guess you spoke to a vacant lot on Oakton that's going to be constructed into a parking lot?
Yes.
Do we have an idea?
Well, it's not vacant, it's occupied right now.
Oh, it is occupied. Oh, I thought it was
It's
vacant.
the lot that the Sherman Dodge vehicles were on. It's the gravel lot, which they're going to actually improve properly.
We're on? They're not still on?
It's the only private property between
The Park District
the,
and the
yeah,
CTA barn.
it's next to the Talking Farm.
Yeah.
So there's a Talking Farm, there's the property that's owned by the gas company, and then there's a sliver,
Oh.
which we've heard multiple cases on what's going to go on that site over the years. And at one point, it was going to be a garbage transfer station.
Talking Farms off Howard, I'm talking about.
Oh, I'm
Oakton.
sorry. CTA, yeah, we're the CTA lot.
Okay, I
right?
can visualize it now, thank you.
No, sorry, it's, north of the MWRD stuff and west of the Park District facility.
And Sherman Dodge doesn't need that any longer because of their expansion on site?
That's the plan. So hopefully you'll be hearing that case sometime soon too.
Okay. Any other questions of staff? Okay, I don't think there's any rebuttal to that. I'm going to open up the floor to anybody who has a question on this case or opinion. None? Okay, I'm ready for by the way, the parking determination cases, we are the final hearing body for parking determination, so this case will not go before the Board of Trustees. So, do I have a motion? Motion. So moved to approve.
Approve as
Thank you.
presented.
As presented, do I have a second?
Second.
I'm sorry, who, I saw Mr. Commissioner Luxpati, so. Call for the vote. Commissioner Mitchell is absent. Commissioner Quinn.
Aye.
Commissioner Scott Berman.
Aye.
Commissioner Villegas.
Aye.
Commissioner Franklin.
Aye.
Commissioner Luxpati.
Aye.
Commissioner Jeff Berman.
Aye.
Commissioner Matei.
Aye.
And I'll vote aye. Motion passes. Okay, good luck to you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Have a good evening. Gee. Yeah, I'm looking at it. I think we might as well just listen to all of them. Okay, the next, next 5 cases are related, and I'll read off the case numbers. Case 2019-33P, zoning map amendment at 8031 Niles Avenue and 8030 Lamont Avenue. In case 2019-34P, an alley vacation for the north of and adjacent to 4930 Oakton Street. Case 2019-35P, a subdivision 4900 through 4906 and 4930 Oakton Street. In case 2019-36P, site plan approval at 4918, 4934 Oakton Street, 8009 Niles Avenue, and 4933 Oakton Terrace. And the 5th case is case 2019-37P, special use permit at 8009 Niles Avenue. Is the petitioner here for all these cases?
Yes.
Yes, please step up to the microphone. And would you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, my name is Mark Klemper. I'm with OKW Architects,
Okay.
and
I'm Mark Meyer. I'm with E&M Strategic Development. I'm the developer of this.
Okay, gentlemen, would you raise your right hand? Do you affirm that, before I begin, is there anybody in the audience who, or part of your entourage that may submit or may give statement tonight? If so,
Is here on our behalf? So he's not with them, but yeah.
on your behalf, rather.
But he might testify also.
Right,
for
so
us.
if anyone on your behalf, please stand up and testify. All right.
And Bill.
You've been here before, Bill. Okay, raise your right hand anyway. All right, do you affirm that, excuse me, do you affirm that the testimony you give tonight is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you?
yes, I do.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. Sir, please continue. Is there the notice and order, Council?
Notice is proper in all cases.
Okay, very good, thank you. We're gonna just, if you could just gloss over everything, all the cases that I've read off tonight, we're trying to bundle up in one.
Absolutely.
Sure, thank you.
Absolutely. So, to just give you the broad overview, the map in front of you is representative of the site area that we're talking about. In yellow, it's the site proper with a site addition to that to the east. Not sure if I could best communicate that.
There's a laser pointer there.
It's a document camera, so you can.
Okay.
Yeah. So, excuse me, the dimensions of the site that we're talking about include everything in that yellow boundary, as well as the building that exists slightly outside of it, and the parking alongside of it. It's roughly about 470 linear feet along Oakton Street. It's currently owned by two parties, American Landmark, who owns the bulk of the tech park north of the site, and then a small sliver right to the north of about 270 feet long, which is a 16-foot alley owned by the Village of Skokie. So as part of these 5 petitions, it is a alley vacation, a consolidation, and then platting of 2 parcels. So one parcel along the west side of 241 feet in length, and then an additional parcel that of the bulk of the property are the context of what we're talking about. And the presentation materials that I will show you are really talking about the parcel on the west end, the 241 feet, which is the proposed mixed-use building to house the Homewood Suites and other uses, including an event center, ground floor retail, and a restaurant bar at the roof level. So the remaining portion is planned to be purchased by the Village of Skokie for future development. So at least that's what we've been as we've been in communications with Skokie, that's been the plan that we're proceeding with staff.
Okay.
So, just to give you a broad overview, what you're looking at is from the southwest corner of Niles Avenue and Oakton Street is a proposed 8-story building. Houses, like I said, 12,000 square foot of retail space along Oakton Avenue, along Oakton Street, excuse me. Along Niles Avenue is the proposed entrance for the Homewood Suites. Involves a porte cochere for the main entrance. And the Homewood Suites consists of the remaining lobby area on the ground floor, plus floors 2 through 8. Consists of a total of 143 rooms, and the amenity spaces along the second floor level, as well as on the ground floors as well. So the other uses that we talked about, there's an event center that is a portion of the second floor, and then the Sky Bar, the bar, restaurant bar on the top. So as we look at the plan, sorry for the lack of clarity, but I think you also have paper copies. This just is reflective of a proposed site plan. Oakton Street is to be left existing, as is Niles. And then there's a proposed inlet, a curb cut for this porte cochere. That is the valet loading zone.
Just trying to
clear it up for you. Sure.
I don't know.
Visually.
Yeah.
Sure. The 2 remaining boundaries along the north and along the east are actually proposed streets. They don't exist right now. They will be constructed, and currently Gewalt Hamilton has been engaged by the Village of Skokie to design those streets, and the design is currently underway. So we are coordinating our efforts simultaneously so that they are all built at the same time. So beyond the confines of the lot, which is in the end result 241 feet wide, 127.5 feet deep, there will be this private drive along Oakton Terrace, as well as Lamont Street as a private drive, and then the parcel just north of Oakton Terrace is a proposed parking deck that the property owner, American Landmark, will be constructing as well simultaneous with this development, which will house the required parking for the hotel. It will also house parking for the Village of Skokie, and then eventually, in a future phase, additional parking for American Landmark's future development that is currently being planned. So, then to briefly go over floor by floor, I won't belabor the point, but the ground floor has about 50% of it is retail space along Oakton, and the remaining 50% is the hotel main common areas and amenity spaces. The second floor is a portion of amenity for the hotel and a few guest rooms. The second floor is an event center with some outdoor space as well. The third floor through the seventh floor, this is a typical footprint of 26 rooms per floor for the hotel. So 5 levels will be identical in footprint. And then the top level, again, a few rooms along the west side, and the remaining portion of this to being a restaurant and bar. So, in total, the building, like I said, is 143 rooms. It's about 134,000 square feet gross in area amongst all the uses. And at 8 stories, it tops out at approximately 96 feet in height. The hotel is, the structure is going to be a cast-in-place concrete structure with a combination of masonry and stucco features along the facade. And that, with the glazing itself that you see, represents a pretty contemporary imagery. Lastly, to touch on landscaping, we will be working with Gewalt Hamilton and the Village of Skokie to ensure that all of the right-of-ways are addressed to the proper streetscape standards, and proposing that along Oakton Terrace, that, again, additional temporary valet loading and parking will be accommodated for the hotel. That would be in complement to the aesthetics of the Skokie streetscape that exists along Niles and Oakton. So, the last feature I wanted to just mention is that this image represents the proposed hotel with a subtle nod to an adjacent use. We don't know what this use to the east is. It's just suggestive of a building of some scale could be there. And what we've accommodated for, from a circulation perspective, is a 15-foot arcade that would separate the hotel building itself from any potential use that would go immediately adjacent to it. That arcade is a design feature that we think is pretty special, offers a throughway for not only patrons of the main entrance, which is to the Sky Bar, but it allows public access from Oakton Street to Oakton Terrace, accommodating additional, again, parking that would be partly village public spaces as well. So in that, I think my overview of the site is complete, and I would entertain any questions you might have.
Are there any questions of the petitioner? Commissioner?
Walk me through the streets being created, both to the north of the property as well as to the east, and how traffic flow is gonna work. You mentioned a private drive. So currently it is an alley that services the existing 4-story property, in addition to the back of some of the 1-story properties to the east.
Do you mind if I answer this question?
Of course.
Okay. All right. Well, let me start with here. So what I'm showing you is the master plan that was approved for the Illinois Science Technology Park. You guys heard the case in 2006. It was approved by the village board in 2007, and it established the final build-out to be built out over a number of years, where we talked about how the transportation system is going to work. The alleyway improvement, currently there's an alley that is parallel to a driveway with 2 curb cuts onto Niles Avenue. The plan is to consolidate that into one, and this has always been approved, or it was approved a long time ago. So that's this right here. It's called Oakton Terrace. It is a private road. It is not going to be a village street. And it was to incorporate the existing alleyway in order to better circulate the traffic through that area when everything redevelops. So now we're at that point of redeveloping. So that's that. So that was the conceptual plan. Yes.
So it's, the science park itself has a concrete wall between the alley and their private drive, correct? Yes.
There's a fence and there's some grade difference. It's not a huge grade difference. I don't think it might be 2.5 feet at its max.
Okay.
But at this location, it's almost exactly at grade. It only starts to separate
So
slowly.
what is it being
Yes.
consolidated and then providing a little more space, I assume, to the south, so the building will have a little more room in between?
Right, and Michael explained this when we do the vacation case and the subdivision case. So it's not gonna be quite on center. The southern 5.5 feet approximately are gonna go to these lots that are on Oakton, and the rest is gonna go to the properties to the north. But it will be approximately in the middle, let's just say. Most people aren't gonna be able to tell the difference. And it'll be straightened out, the utilities we put underground with a single,
Okay,
Let me get in now.
Steve, why don't we just move ahead?
Yeah, yeah,
And get to
sorry.
the staff report, and we can probably get your answers answered, Commissioner Matei.
Do you want to have more questions?
Yeah.
We'll wait for the traffic.
You have questions for a petitioner, or?
I don't, I have a question.
Are there any-
I have a question for the petitioner, yes, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
My question is a simple one. How many do you expect to seat in the convention space? What is is it a theater seating, is it banquet seating?
It's going to be flexible space as events, so it
I saw
could be
it
anything
was
from-
Conference A, Conference B, Conference C.
Yes, it could be a few conferences, some could be simultaneous. The order of magnitude is roughly 400 to 500 people at its absolute maximum. So there would be a potential for weddings, it could be combined into one space, it could be corporate events, job fairs.
But if all rooms were combined, it would be as large as 400-plus people,
Right, correct.
okay?
That doesn't include the outdoor.
Could you speak into the microphone?
Please. The outdoor space.
Could
will-
we have your name, please?
Mark Meyer. So the outdoor space could accommodate slightly more, depending on the weather. But we're really excited about what might be here, but at this point, we don't know what users would potentially use that space. So we want to be as flexible as possible.
Okay.
Any other questions of the petitioner, Commissioner
I'm
Berman?
not sure if it's of the petitioner or Steve, but the parking, if 400 or 500 people at a convention, will the multi-level parking garage that's going to be built adequately accommodate the number of spaces that would be required? I don't know.
Yeah, and again, we'll get into this in our report. So they do meet the parking requirements for this district because of its location. Similar to things that happen in Evanston, there are more people that do take public transportation. The regular hotel requirement is being applied to this site, just as it would for any hotel, even if it was out by the highway. That does accommodate both the employees and the expected number of people who would be staying at the hotel. As far as the convention space, we apply the numbers for this district. I believe, and we don't have the final yet, as far as the number of spaces that will be in the parking garage to the north, but they're not going to allow for a convention facility to be built where they're not going to be able to accommodate the people that are parking there. So that, when the final agreement is made, there is a condition number 3 in one of my reports that does state that they have to provide the spaces before they can get occupancy, and that we'll get to that moving forward.
So those will be connected.
It'll be right across on the other side of Oakton
What I'm
Terrace.
saying, that it'll be contingent upon having that parking deck completed to have the.
Correct, yes. They will not be able to open their hotel unless the parking is available.
Okay. Okay, I'm sorry. Any other questions of the petitioner? Okay, gentlemen, if you'll sit down, I'll call up the staff reports on these cases. Thank you. First case would be the zoning map amendment, case 2019-33P. And Mike will present the case. Thank you.
I'm going to present cases 33P, 34P, and 35P.
Thank you.
So case 33P is a zoning map amendment. This is mainly a technical cleanup of zoning along the, or within the alley. The property to the north in the Science and Tech Park is zoned B6, Downtown Science and Technology. And then the property to the south, which is the main development site, is zoned CX Core Mixed Use. So with the proposed development occupying, I believe, 11.5 feet, I'm sorry, 4.5 feet of the south part of the alley, the remainder of that alley will become part of the Tech Park's private Oakton Terrace roadway. And so the zoning map amendment is going to take the zoning of that northern 11.5 feet and convey it over to the B6 zone so that we've got consistent zoning for the Tech Park as well as Oakton Terrace.
Okay.
So that's about it for case 33P.
No, it's obvious that they're going to maintain the...
It's all privately maintained.
Okay.
Yep. So I'd just like to request that report be accepted as written.
You're,
33.
it's granted, and for the other two cases also?
No, I do need to
Okay.
make some
All right, proceed.
modifications on case 34P.
Is this, Mike, when you'd like us to ask questions concerning the roadway, the configuration, the future Le Mans, the privatization of Oakton Terrace? Or do you want us to wait till you're done with the three cases before we ask those questions that Russ began asking?
I think those will be questions more geared toward the site plan approval.
Okay, we'll wait,
Yeah,
we'll wait.
because I'm just handling the division of land, the rezoning, and the vacation of the alley and conveyance over to private ownership. So in case 2019-34P, I'll show you the plat here. We're dividing the alley. It's not going to be a division based upon a 50-50 split like most alley vacations in the village have been in the past. It's not super clear here, but this shows, I don't know, it's about as clear as it's going to get. This shows the hatched area here. This part's going to be going up to the Science and Tech Park, and then the southern 4.5 feet will be vacated to the proposed development to the south. This is the limit of where the that development will be, and then this part will consist of Oakton Terrace. But it will also be shared for access to delivery areas for the proposed use as well. And there's also going to be a drop-off area. There will be a door here that leads to, I believe, upstairs access to the conference center, which will have an Oakton Terrace address. There are multiple utilities within this alley right now. There's overhead electrical utilities, which will be buried underground within the alley once it's vacated and once the area has been developed. So we will recommend that an easement be established for that full width of the alley, the full extent all the way to the east end. Also, at the time of the report, it was unclear if there was a gas line running through this alley. There is an easement further to the east, over here behind the building where Annie's is currently located. It's a 10-foot wide easement. We identified a 2-inch gas main per NICOR's gas maps, and that gas line runs all the way through and connects to a line that's running north-south along Niles Avenue. And so we are requesting that the blanket easement also cover that gas line. And I do have a condition in case 34P. Condition number 1, I'd like to request that that be amended and removed. We're just going to include that gas line under condition number 2, which states that an easement for public utilities shall be established within the full extent of the vacated alley. That way, it's a very general easement. It covers anything that's going to be within the extent of the vacated alley, so we can protect everything that's in there. Okay. The village Village Public Works has stated that there's also a storm sewer line within the alley right now. and the village is going to hand it over to private ownership. We do not have an intention to continue maintenance of that once it's vacated.
That sewer line's not hooked up to anything else, or? I mean,
I think it dead ends right around
oh,
here.
Okay.
So it's not, it doesn't continue further past. So with the vacation, it will become privately owned and privately maintained. We will not maintain that. We will be constructing a new water main within Oakton Terrace and Lamont Avenue. So it's going to wrap around, it's going to come down that proposal of extension of Lamont Avenue as well. And so with that new water main will also, that'll be protected by this easement that we're creating for the full extent of the alley.
okay.
So we're gonna have multiple utilities running through that area, and we just wanna make sure we've got sufficient access and rights to get in there and restoration and so forth. So that is all for case 34P, the alley vacation. And then case 35P is a subdivision of the property. The property currently consists of 3 tax parcels residing within 2 separate subdivisions. And this case will clean things up and then create a property boundary between the proposed hotel development and then the future development over on Lot 2. And then that subdivision document will eventually be revised to show that establishment of the easement that I was talking about for public utilities. So the final product will show this, the width of the alley running across the northern 4.5 feet to incorporate that easement in there. So it's just establishing these 2 lots. There's no dedications involved. Oakton Street's already 40 feet. Niles Avenue is already 33 feet to center line. No additional right-of-way is necessary at this time.
Okay. Any questions concerning the subdivision?
Well,
Yes.
going back to traffic now, and Russ is following up on where Russ began. So the alley to be vacated, that is going to be a 16-foot, it's going to wind up being a 16-foot roadway.
No, it'll be wider than that. So,
Okay.
so the development is only taking part of that vacation. Oakton Terrace.
Mike, there's a graphic up there that actually shows the design.
That's the question. What is going to be the ultimate result of this for future, there we
Move it over.
That's where,
No, the other way.
that's where.
More. There we go.
So Oakton Terrace is going to be to the north of that, and it's going to be, 24, I mean, it's going to meet the code requirements for a 2-lane drive. It's not going to be a narrow 16-foot wide
Got it.
right of way. The majority of that alley is further to the south of that. Only a portion of that public alley will be vacated and conveyed over to become part of Oakton
Will that
Terrace.
roadway be illuminated at night?
That's a question for Steve.
Okay, okay, go ahead.
I've following up on that, as Russ began, the traffic pattern then is ultimately to open up Lamont Avenue as a through street from south through north and moving through these properties and into the tech park, so that it will be one public.
As a private, it'll be privately owned. It will not be a public right of way. So Lamont to the north of Oakton Terrace
Yes.
right now, it's signed as a village, it's got our village signs, but it is an easement. So it's a private right-of-way in a sense, a private easement running through the tech park and a north-south. And then this is our east-west access now with the creation of Oakton Terrace. When the tech park was platted 10, 15 years ago, Oakton Terrace was already contemplated, so there was an easement established north of the public alley, set aside for the future
Expansion?
construction of Oakton Terrace.
So back to the traffic flow, that loading area is a dock at the north side of the Homewood Suites? I was wondering.
Yes, that's a service dock.
Service,
Yes.
so all loading for, other than customer loading and passenger loading at the front entrance, will be through that loading
Well,
dock
there's
in the
passenger
back.
loading here as well on, off of Oakton Terrace, because there's going to be access to, right here, I think there's an elevator right here, so there's access up
Mike,
from that area as well. That's my
maybe we
understanding.
should have traffic engineer come up and
Sure.
explain. Bill, wanna,
That's one crazy little thing we're building right there.
in simple layman terms, Bill.
Okay, I'll try.
Would you give us your name for the record?
Sure, Bill Greaves, Senior Transportation Engineer, Gaywald Hamilton Associates, Vernon Hills, Illinois. Mike did a great job. What basically is happening is that the public alley is gonna be vacated, and that sits here. Oakton Terrace, which is a little glorified something now, is going to be beefed up. It's going to become, from Niles Inn, it's gonna be about 32 feet wide, which will accommodate 2 moving lanes of traffic. And then this little area here where it's gonna be passenger loading zone. The entrance, and Mark, tell me if I'm wrong, the entrance to the Sky Restaurant and the facility is going to be along here. So the idea was to be able to give people a chance to get dropped off. And then loading for the hotel will be in this spot. Loading for the building on the north side will be off of this spot. And then we go back down to 24 feet. It's two-way traffic on Oakton Terrace, and Oakton Terrace will be a private street. It won't be public throughway. The other big piece then, Lamont Avenue will be extended from Oakton Street kind of through the parking lot and hook up to the existing piece of Lamont Avenue that's in the tech park right now. This is a very preliminary kind of look at what could be the design. You know, we're gonna be drilling down and making sure that everything fits by code. The idea was to try to get perpendicular parking on both sides, because parking is so much needed in the downtown. One other quick point about the parking is that with the closing of the other parking facility, we'll be able to actually pick up 2 more spaces on street, on Oakton Street as well.
And
So-
just for clarification, the Lamont portion is not going to happen right away, and it isn't necessarily part of this case. This is just
Correct.
giving the long-term vision. And there always was contemplated either pedestrian or a roadway connection, and it's just to integrate the park directly into the downtown, because right now they have to kind of traverse this bizarre stairwell off to the side. So at this point, the only thing that's going to happen is that the white building is going to come down. The parking lot may be staying that's in between for the time being. But it's really the stuff that's not in red. That's the future site that we don't know what's happening right now, but we just put it on this graphic because it shows the full build out. But what will be built at this point with this development will be the Oakton Terrace portion and the potential to make that connection to Oakton Street from Lamont when the time comes.
And even though Oakton Terrace is gonna be private, it's gonna be built to
Our
village
standards.
standards. And I think one of you asked about street lighting. We're planning for street lighting, planning for landscaping. The tech park has kind of a landscape plan enforced, where there's certain streets and certain portions of the tech park that have certain landscape requirements. So we're gonna be coordinating with that to make sure that whatever landscaping is been able to be included in the plan meets all those standards and guidelines as well.
Okay, Commissioner Quinn?
So, the Terrace Street previously approved will now be opened up for employees and guests of the tech park to now enter and exit onto Niles Avenue
Correct,
prior to work and after work?
correct.
Do you have a feel for how many will actually take advantage of that new opportunity?
Well, the one thing we did do was a kind of a comparison in trips from the previous uses, office building, the dentist, college, Annie's, versus what the hotel would bring and what this red box might bring in the future. And really, the traffic is pretty comparable, especially during the morning rush hour and the evening rush hour. What we considered was that there might be a little bit of a bump in traffic, but for example, traffic going through the key Oakton-Niles intersection, that with the additional traffic that the hotel and the red box might generate, you're looking at about 1 trip every cycle length in the morning, and maybe 2 trips every cycle length in the evening. So we felt very comfortable with the roadway as it is out there in the intersection of Niles and Oakton, thinking that you probably don't need any road improvements there. The huge thing that Oakton Terrace will allow is this flexibility, Because on the north side of Oakton Terrace, you've got an entrance into what's going to be the garage.
If you could move that over just a little bit so we could more clearly see that Niles Center intersection. There we go.
Okay, Niles.
Niles Avenue.
So you
Yep.
can see there's an entrance to the garage off of Oakton Terrace that'll be allow a lot of efficiencies and flexibility for those bigger events for the hotel. You know, in terms of generating traffic on a daily basis, the hotel and the Red will generate more trips than what's out there now. But that's the beauty of this development or redevelopment, because you're striving to get as much activity as you can throughout the day and the evening. And these uses bring traffic in all day long. It's not just like an office building where everybody comes in the morning and leaves in the evening. You know, the hotel has functions throughout the day. They talked about meeting rooms, they talked about restaurants, banquet facilities. So that's really the beauty of this, as I said, that you're going to be bringing people into downtown Skokie that may not have decided before that they wanted to visit.
What is the difference between the driveway entrance to the hotel off of Niles Avenue, which I envisioned as the check-in driveway, and the passenger loading area off of the new Oakton Terrace?
The entrance off of Niles is the porte cochere, as Mark said. That's where I would get dropped off by an Uber or drop my passenger off to go check in. The area on the north side, this passenger loading zone, is kind of a convenience because there is going to be a door or an entryway on the north side of the hotel that will get me to the, I don't know about, to the conference areas?
Yes.
To the conference areas and the upper floors.
And to the lobby also?
Yes.
So people coming to the hotel, either to check in or to go to the conference center, can pull into either that driveway of Niles or around the corner into the loading area. Then, once they are unloaded at that loading area on Oakton Terrace, how do they get out? Because there is no through street at Lemon, as Steve said earlier. That's what Russ was asking earlier. Where do they go now that they are eastbound on the new Oakton Terrace?
The vast majority of those people would probably wind up going into the garage anyway, because we are going to have the entrance into the garage, and there might be some signing in the interim, you know, that suggests that if you're a hotel patron, that you're going to want to get into the garage anyway, because part of the garage will be reserved for, the garage is going to serve a lot of purposes. One, there's going to be some great prime parking just for village purposes. Then you're going to have parking for the hotel, and then you're also going to have parking that's going to be used by the tech park.
Yeah, almost all the grade, and we don't have the design up here because it's not final yet, but there isn't, the first level of the garage is mostly at grade, so there'll be a way to get out onto Niles Avenue, or they can continue onto Niles Terrace, or Oakton Terrace and go up to Searle Parkway via the existing Lamont.
So that will be done at this time, as we connect the Homewood Suites and the new Oakton Terrace. It will be a connected through Terrace Street, moving from Niles to the internal current
Yeah.
Lemon in the Searle Parkway.
You can make that movement now.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
I don't want to
You can,
imply that
Right now, it's
that
just
is
a-
open at this point.
There's a
Anyone
driveway
can do
there, it's
that.
just not wide into a private
It's
street.
not, it's
standard.
underdeveloped.
So eastbound traffic on Oakton Terrace, we expect before the pink building, but as soon as the Homewood Suites is constructed, we expect eastbound traffic to move eastbound, dead end where it usually does now, dead end in that it doesn't stop, but dead end and then flow to the north, up Lemon towards
Or
Searle.
go into the garage, as we mentioned.
Oh, to the garage, but
Gentlemen, let's continue this conversation. Let's close up the subdivision case.
No,
and
this is-
move on to the,
No, we said we were combining all of them. This is-
no.
It's all essential.
As far as the staff is go, Mike is gonna finish his report.
Oh.
And then, he's not presenting the site plan report.
I'll try to get all these in my
Okay.
part.
Okay, that's fine. We'll
So I
wait.
just wanna-
I'll wait.
I just want to close
I'll
up
wait.
these three
All right,
minor
okay.
cases.
Okay.
They are related. They're
I'll wait.
strongly related. Mike, would you please?
I have nothing else.
Okay, very good. So you're done. I just wanted, all right, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, now we can move on to the
Traffic.
the site plan approval and the special use permit. Are you present both cases, Steve?
I'll probably just present the site plan case, which is the bulk of the building.
Okay, let's
which is
go to
what
the
everyone's
site
gonna
plan.
see.
Okay, this is case 2019-36P.
Okay, and I'll go through this briefly. They've already done a lot of this. It'll be a little bit easier to see on the printed copy because we don't have the light coming from the computer device.
Yeah.
So first, I'd like to respectfully request that case 36P report, the staff report, be entered in the record as presented.
Your request is granted.
Okay, so I'll just go through this pretty briefly. So anything in the downtown that is over 45 feet in height, over a FAR of 2, and an FAR is the ratio of the number of the area of the building divided by the lot. So by right, you could build 2.5 times the lot size. So if a lot is 10,000 square feet, you're allowed by right to build 25,000 square feet of building. So they're going to do more than that because we already said it's going to be 134,000. And then there's a couple items of relief, and they're mostly from the design requirements we'll be supporting, and I'll go through those very, very briefly. So what the petitioner is presenting, as they said, was a mixed-use building, and it will have ground floor retail, which is the orange, and then the hotel on the ground floor and additional conference space on the second floor, hotel rooms in the upper floors, and on the very top, there is a restaurant. That restaurant is not facing the existing residential. It'll just be hotel rooms on that side, so it will block a lot of the noise that might occur from that space, as well as the second floor terrace is also blocked by the building, and I'll put that floor plan up real quick also. Okay, so this is the second floor plan, and the shape of the building is right here and here. This is the adjacent condominium building across on the other side of Niles Avenue. So over here, and the top of the page is north, where the new Oakton Terrace is going to be constructed. Similarly, with that same L shape, it will be on the very top floor, except the 8th floor will be pushed back even further back, and there'll be another small terrace on the top floor, which I will show right here. So again, the terrace is facing Oakton Street, and the bulk of the building on this floor is right there. So I just want to let you know that the way that our ordinance works is that if you meet certain bonus requirements, then you are entitled to additional building. They've met all those requirements, and what they are asking for meets our FAR requirements. We are also making the recommendation that the building is consistent in height with what is allowed downtown, which could be up to 156 feet. This building is 96 feet. Just for comparison, the Metropolitan is 84 feet, so we're just going one more story on top of that. Okay. And then the relief is mostly for the stuff that's happening on the ground floor, and it's because we have that covered drop-off area. So normally we require that all the buildings be up against the street completely, that first chunk along the sidewalk be actually used for retail purposes. We are preserving all the retail along Oakton Street. Continuously, which is good. And then the drop-off area, we're saying it's okay that this be pushed back a little bit. The regular face of the building will still be slightly off the sidewalk, very similar to the building across the street, which is slightly off the sidewalk on the Niles Avenue side, so it'll be consistent with, or very similar for that. We talked about the parking a little bit, and again, we don't have the garage designed. There is a requirement that they have to provide all of their parking spaces before they're allowed to open. See if there's anything else that's been covered. I don't want to get into all the technical details about calculating things. So the 4 items of relief that they're asking have got to do with, again, the setback on the ground floor, on the first floor facade, and that same percentage supposed to be used to open to the public. In this case, it's a drop-off area, and it's actually pushed back farther. That's okay. And the last part is just the sight distance triangle issue. So we do have a rule, we want to make sure that people stay safe, that we don't have cars pulling out around blind corners. In this particular case, the entrance driveway is one way, so the cars will be coming in like this. Under that circumstance, we don't quite need the full 15 feet because the cars that are pulling in, you're not going to have the conflict, so that there isn't going to be that blind corner. So we're asking that we grant them relief from that sight distance triangle to be slightly less than that based on the way that they're shown on the plan. And that was an additional item of relief, so they're going to have to, that's from their original submittal. Most of the stuff is pretty standard. Condition number 3 was the one that's requiring that off-street vehicle and bicycle parking be provided prior to the occupancy in the adjacent garage. So we are saying it does need to be right on the other side of that street, and that they can't put any restrictions. And we have some issues with the building across the street where the condominium association has put restrictions, which has made it difficult sometimes to lease those spaces, that you can't put any restrictions that are any more stringent than are allowed in the district. And the rest of those are all standard. Just to answer a couple questions about the circulation, there is another road, you could see it where it says Future Bronx Avenue. That road will also need to be constructed, so you can either enter the garage before that street or you can go up the Bronx Avenue. There will be a pass-through, which will be even with Warren, so that they can actually go through the garage that way to exit and loop around. So they don't need to go all the way through the park, but the way it's proposed. The other point of clarification, I know the petitioner's representative had stated the village was purchasing the lot to the east. That is not necessarily the case. We may buy it, we may not buy it. That has not been determined, so I don't want to give the false impression that we are acquiring that big pink blob. It's a possibility, but that's still to be determined as we're working out the final arrangements with the parking garage to the north, which will also include public parking for the downtown, just for clarification, since we've talked a little bit more about the garage than I intended to at this meeting. But there will be public parking in that garage, as well as parking for the tech park and parking for the hotel. So any additional overflow that might happen during a large event could be accommodated in those public parking spaces. And it's over 100, I believe. Do you know what the number is on that off the top of your head, approximately, for the public, the spaces in the garage?
The current phase 1 proposal for
Yeah.
the garage that we saw were that close to the 200 spaces for
The hotel.
and an additional 200 for.
Yeah, don't quote us on the numbers because again, we're still designing the garage. Some might be below ground and they won't even be seen by anybody, so. Okay, now ask your question.
Questions? First question.
Sir.
Bronx, then we should not consider the future Bronx as part of this plan.
Bronx will be constructed when the parking garage is constructed.
So it is part of this plan then. It's not.
It's
not
part
like
of the garage
future.
plan, yes.
It's not like the future connecting of Lemon. That one is.
That's
past-
obvious, yes. This
past the big
that
pink
street
building
will
in the
need to be
future.
done now. Yeah,
So the Lemon is not. So therefore,
the Lemon connection is.
the Lemon connection will not be done. So therefore, we should consider when this is done, there will be access out of the site, of the Homewood site, to the north along the future Bronx, or continuing through Oakton Terrace to the north Lemon connector that connects up to Searle Parkway.
Or it could connect, there's an entrance to the garage off of Oakton Terrace also. You can enter the garage and then also exit onto Niles Avenue at Warren Street.
That's good, okay. Next question. Are both Lemon, future Bronx, and future Oakton Terrace all two-way streets?
Yes.
And what is the width of all of those?
They'll be developed to the same road standard.
33 feet.
The 24 feet will not accommodate on-street parking. Actually, there are a few guest parking spaces that are involved in this plan. There was Mr. Grieve referenced a packet of design requirements. So along with this, it was almost like doing a mini comprehensive plan for this area. So they talk about different road profiles, and most of it is to make it look like it's a pedestrian environment. So there will be lighting, there will be sidewalks, there will be trees, there will be roads of different width, depending, and all the roads are classified or classed in that document and what they need to be improved to. And that is part of the implementation ordinance for the tech park. So all these things are actually part of the tech park plan. They're just going to be using those roads as part of the tech park plan for their development.
But everything is to be two-way, everything is to be enough width to accommodate two-way traffic on
Yes.
each of those 3 streets.
Yes.
My last question. Cars exiting the valet port can turn left then across traffic, or they must turn right coming out of that valet.
No, they can turn left or right.
They turn left.
I mean, it's the same as any, if that was a parking lot where the building is right now, and there's an entrance to get onto a street, you could turn left onto that road to get out of the parking lot. It's the same thing. So we don't consider that, there's not going to be that much traffic on this to be able to, I'm not concerned about that. I don't.
All right, I said one last question, but I actually,
I know, there's always one more question, Commissioner.
And that has to do with the parking deck. Somewhere 200, 400 spaces. It's got to be built appropriately in order for them to occupy the hotel and the convention space. What is that number, though, for a hotel of this size with 150 rooms and a convention space with up to 500 people? What is that capacity of parking?
I don't think we said 500 people, but.
They said 400 to 500.
Okay, 180, well, it's 186 minimum, and then they would be providing more than that probably. Do you know what approximately your number is going to be?
I mean, so in regards to the.
I guess you better
Yeah,
come up to talk on the microphone. Sorry.
So we've had a number of.
Please, into the
Yeah.
microphone.
We've had a number of conversations on when our peak use of parking would be. And typically that will be off ALP office hours as well.
Explain what ALP is, because they don't know.
American Landmark Property, the Illinois Science and Technology Park. There's existing parking to the north as well, in the park. And it is shown here. So when we have events where, on the occasion, and hopefully there are many occasions, when we have parking really be an issue, we'll have access to parking here as well as parking here. So because when our events are opposite of when the park need is, and they have overbuilt parking, they are making it allowable to us.
Okay.
And just a point of clarification, our parking requirement, even for a restaurant, which is what a convention center would basically be, is not one per seat. So under no circumstance, anywhere in the town, do we say that there must be a parking spot for every single seat. It's always way less than that. We are comfortable with these numbers, with what's going to be provided. Again, they're not going to build a facility where they're going to have problems with people parking. That's not where we're headed right now, and we're not in a position to be doing that. There will be our public parking spaces that are also available for those times when those things occur. So anyway.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, Steve?
All right, the last part of this is just this actual special use for the hotel. So then we'll be done with all of our technicalities.
Okay. Okay. And Carrie Haberstich will present the special use case.
Oh, I'm sorry. There was a question about the entrance to the Sky Bar.
Through the arcade.
Right. So there's going to be a pedestrian arcade, and again, it will provide another way in and out of the tech park once all the sidewalks are all going to be connected, because it's not going to be a gravel back road anymore. And the entrance will be off the side. The plan at least shows, and we're not finalized on the signage yet, some kind of entrance signage, and that will be very well lit and festive to allow safe passage back and forth. And it's kind of a cool way to kind of enter into the building, and it also separates the hotel traffic from the restaurant traffic. I hope people from the hotel will have access to the bar through the 8th floor, which will be, is that still the case? Yes. But the other way, it's not a reverse. One can go one way, but not the other. The restaurant people can't get into the hotel unless they have a pass. Okay, sorry.
Thank you. I'm here to discuss 2019-37P, the special use permit for a hotel, and I'd like to request that this report be accepted into the record as written.
Request granted. And
Thank
Carrie,
you.
could you just briefly explain why this use, why this needs a special use?
Special uses are needed when there's a potential negative impact on the surrounding neighborhood, and so that just additional scrutiny needs to be considered on a case-by-case basis, just to make sure that we think of things to maximize the use, but minimize the impact on the surrounding neighborhood.
Good. Thank you.
All right, so we are here for the special use permit for a hotel in a CX Core mixed-use district, and there are also some requests for signage relief. Since the signage is related specifically to the hotel, we included that in this case. I have some highlights here, but we've covered quite a few of them, so I'm just going to skim through and make sure I just hit the highlights. So again, a 143-room hotel. The parking will be constructed by the Tech Park owners, and there will be a third-party operator of the hotel once constructed. Gewalt Hamilton has presented information this evening, and it's part of a project team that reviewed the traffic and other public services impacts of this project. We've also talked about the parking required. So based on our traffic engineering division, they have identified that 186 spaces are needed, and that's expected to be accommodated with the parking structure to the north of the site. As part of that analysis, the engineering division, the employee parking was taken into account in this parking calculation. Employees must park in the proposed parking garage or parking in the downtown employee parking lots via a downtown parking permit. A hotel is allowed with a special use permit in the CX Core mixed use district. Just again, recap, the first floor entrance, the first floor entrance lobby isn't necessarily conducive for retail pedestrian traffic, so that's one of the reasons why there is a special use request before you tonight. There will be rooms on floors 2 through 8, and then parking in the adjacent parking structure. The structure will be a case at a future Appearance Commission meeting and meet the previously approved Tech Park development criteria. And staff supports the idea of, for the parking structure to the north, that underground parking be provided for the hotel, at-grade parking for public parking, and then the Tech Park parking be on the floors above. A hotel is restricted along retail streets because of the lobby space, again, is not a big conductor of or supporter of pedestrian traffic. So the first floor lobby faces Niles Avenue, which helps create or can enable the continuity of retail along the entire frontage of Oakton Street. The rest of the operations of the hotel are on the floors above, so we see the potential negative impacts of a hotel lobby along this retail street are minimal. We discussed bicycle parking, so we'd support that. The sign package, there are 3 requests for relief. The Appearance Commission approved the sign package, the building design, at its August 14th meeting. So the 3 items of relief for signage is to allow a wall sign above a second floor window, a second floor windowsill. The downtown requirements expect wall signs to be below the second floor windowsill of a building. A relief for a 126.5 square foot ground sign located 0 feet from an interior lot line. The arcade, yes. So they have an arcade, so it'll be supported on the east end, and then when the next future development, it'll kind of enclose as a gateway to the passageway in between the 2 buildings. And then also relief for an 84 square foot internally illuminated blade sign, again above the second floor windowsills. The several features of this blade sign, our typical blade sign requirements are 10 square feet, but it does meet the maximum projection from the facade of 3 feet. And our blade sign criteria currently are not illuminated at all, so those are some items to consider as part of tonight's request. Although the blade sign is well designed and approved by the Appearance Commission, consideration should be given to the precedent that may be set with approval of this large internally illuminated sign. So if the Plan Commission supports the request for relief. Staff would also like to update the Village of Skokie downtown area sign guidelines in the future to consider the size of the building to which it's attached, maybe the brightness of display at night, that sort of thing, as part of this potential precedent-setting decision. So staff recommendations, the staff recommends that the petitioner's request for a special use permit for a hotel at 8009 Niles Avenue in a CX Core Mixed Use District be approved based upon the proposed findings of fact and subject to the recommended conditions in the cases previously reported this evening. And staff further recommends relief from 82-27C5 of the Village Code to allow a wall sign above a second floor windowsill, from 8227D of the Village Code to allow a 126.5 square foot ground sign to be located 0 feet from an interior lot line, and from 8227E of the Village Code to allow an 84 square foot internally illuminated blade sign above the second floor windowsills. And the recommended special use permit conditions considers the cases before this evening, and the rest are standard for this case. If there are any questions?
Any questions of the
Paul?
staff? Commissioner Quinn?
Yeah, maybe you can answer this, or maybe Steve or someone. I imagine the Sky Bar would be very popular, and I'm pleased that there's a direct entrance off the arcade. Was there any thought to any passenger loading for ride sharing and taxis along Oakton in order to allow for that?
I believe the Oakton Terrace drop-off zone is along here. I would accommodate that need, being able to be dropped off along the north side of the building and walk to the north-south pedestrian arcade.
Yeah, I'm just saying you can see that those that aren't familiar with the Oakton Terrace, traveling down Oakton might be very tempted just to offload at the arcade and maybe cause some problems.
And I also want to be mindful of that this is fairly convenient to our Oakton CTA station as well. So I know we've talked a lot about parking, but there is also the hope that people would be commuting, or either commuting or maybe coming to a conference via the CTA train, and or we also have our Skokie Valley Trail. You know, maybe a few people will be traveling by bicycle as well, and also walking. So I know we've spent a lot of time focusing on parking, and we do need to be thinking about that. But hopefully with the downtown, there will also be support for other modes of transportation.
Any other questions of staff concerning the special use permit?
There will still be
Yes.
parking on Oakton Street, correct, Gary?
Yes. I don't believe the curb lines are planned to be changed at all,
Great.
at least in this section.
As petitioner indicated, there would be 2 additional spaces once those cutouts are removed from the parking lot. Yeah, when?
When the next property is
Well,
developed.
next property, excuse me.
Yeah,
Okay.
not right
Okay.
away, but yes.
Any other questions of staff? Okay, thank you,
All right,
Carrie.
thank you.
Okay, at this time, I would open up the floor to anyone in the audience who has a question or a comment on all of these related cases. Anyone? Please, come up. And as you come up, would you give us your name and your address? Also, too, if you'd like, is there a sign-up sheet there?
Yes, it's buried, but yeah.
There will be a sign-up sheet there. If you give us your name and your address, we will mail you a copy of the commission report and notify you when these cases will go before the Board of Trustees.
Hello, my name is Melinda Lopin.
Good evening.
I am a resident of Chicago, but I am a owner of a commercial property on Oakton. I have 2 questions. This all sounds great, but the new water...
Can I ask you for the address of the commercial property that you own? Currently owned?
The Walgreens immediately east of the
Okay.
site. The proposed new water main, what is the diameter of that going to be?
That's a question for,
I don't know the answer. We haven't determined it. I guess it hasn't been determined yet.
hasn't been determined yet.
Okay, and also the new water main and the new utilities, how far east are those going to go?
The undergrounding of the utilities will be along the existing Oakton Terrace. I know immediately adjacent to this site at this time. Bill, do you know if they're planning on undergrounding the entire length? I know that they don't go the whole way. They basically stop right at the Walgreens, right? At the one corner. Are they planning on undergrounding all the utilities? Yeah, we're not in total final design for that part yet.
And we'll be kept informed of that as owners of.
Absolutely,
nearby
yeah, because
property.
if you are affected, there'll have to be a service switch when that occurs, and then they will obviously have to make sure that happens smoothly.
Yeah, make sure we get your name and address where you want to be notified. Yes. Anyone else who has comment or question, please come up. You can come up. Please, give your name and address, please.
Good evening. My name is Michael Basic. I'm a property owner on Oakton Street, 4917 Oakton Street, which is right across the street, occupied by Duke Medical. The question I have is, how much parking is being removed from Oakton Street for this development? How much existing parking?
None.
None? Oh, so it's all going to be remaining?
Yes.
Okay. Tenants A, B, and C, what type of uses do you foresee for those tenants? And is there parking for those tenants on site?
So, well, none of the parking will be on site, but there will be parking in the garage. So the way the parking works downtown, because most of the buildings don't have parking, we have public parking on street and also these outside lots. So we have the public parking plots that are existing already within the village in downtown, and additional parking spaces will be added at this time. All new developments, the first 8,000 square feet, they don't have to provide. They're required to put in 2 per thousand after that, and then any additional spaces that are provided on their dime, they get bonuses for. But we will be adding public parking spaces into the garage to the north to accommodate that retail, as well as whatever goes on in the evening in the other portions of the building.
So the parking for the customers of the tenants will be in the rear of
in the parking garage that will be to the north,
back?
and then also the public parking lots.
Okay.
And then your customers will also be able to be in the covered parking should your customers choose to be there.
Okay. What's the square footage of the tenants A, B, and C? What type of use do you foresee?
So the way that zoning works is we have a set of uses that are allowed downtown. Right now, most office uses are not allowed to be on the ground floor. So anything that was there prior to the rule change over 10 years ago was allowed to remain. And as those close and change, they become mostly retail uses. I suspect one will likely be a restaurant, but I don't know that that'll necessarily be the case. But they'll be open to any of the uses that are permitted on the retail streets downtown.
Okay. All right. So there's no tenants projected right now leased out for this? There's no.
The developer can answer that question, but I will tell you that in general, for mixed-use buildings, until the buildings are under construction and there's a timeline about when delivery will be, those negotiations usually do not occur until after the building is already underway.
What is the timeline?
The developer can answer that question.
So right now, we're going through the permitting process, but as quickly as possible. My goal was to break ground yet this year, so we continue to hold out hope that that would be the case.
Okay. But for sure in the spring.
For sure in the spring, yeah, weather permitting. And I'd love to talk to you if you want to rent some space.
This timeline question, while you're up there, this timeline question does bring up one more thing connected to parking.
Sure.
groundbreaking is expected hopefully soon, with occupancy 1 year from now, presumably?
We are projecting a 12-month construction timeline.
When does construction begin on the parking deck?
That, since we are not in control of that, we just know it needs to be completed before we can take a guest. So,
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience? Again, if you want a copy of this report and to be notified when this case goes before the Board of Trustees, please sign in at the sign-up sheet and you will receive notice. Okay. Petitioner, please, would you please come up again, please? Do you have any closing comments you'd like to make in light of all this, all the testimony you've heard?
No, I really think that a lot of the staff's comments very thorough in general, and I'm just
Okay,
would
very
welcome
good.
anything else you have that
Thank you.
may come up as part of your deliberations. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Okay. I'm ready for a motion for case 2019-33P, the zoning map amendment. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Commissioner Franklin moves and Commissioner Scott Berman seconds. Call for the vote. Commissioner Quain.
Aye.
Commissioner Scott Berman.
Aye.
Commissioner Villegas.
Aye.
Commissioner Franklin.
Aye.
Commissioner Lexpati.
Aye.
Commissioner Jeff Berman.
Aye.
Commissioner Matei.
Aye.
And I'll vote aye. In case 2019-34P, the alley vacation, 4930 Oakton Street. Do I have a motion? Commissioner Jeff Berman, do I have a second? Commissioner Scott Berman.
Just a
motion
point
to
of
approve.
clarification before we vote.
Yes.
This is as amended by staff to remove number 1 and to modify number 2.
Correct, okay. Is that okay with you? I mean,
And me also.
okay,
As amended.
As amended. Okay, call for the vote. Commissioner Quain?
Aye.
Commissioner Scott Berman?
Aye.
Commissioner Villegas?
Aye.
Commissioner Franklin?
Aye.
Commissioner Lexpati?
Aye.
Commissioner Jeff Berman?
Aye.
Commissioner Matei?
Aye.
And I'll vote aye. In the subdivision case, case 2019-35P, motion to approve.
Scott
Second. Okay. It's the Berman brothers here. Hold on. I know, separated at birth, right?
We're fast.
Yeah, I know.
How to spell it right there.
Excuse me, I've got you mixed up here, hold on. Yeah. Okay, there we go. All right, Commissioner Quain.
Aye.
Commissioner Scott Berman.
Aye.
Commissioner Villegas.
Aye.
Commissioner Franklin.
Aye.
Commissioner Lexpati.
Aye.
Commissioner Jeff Berman.
Aye.
Commissioner Matei.
Aye.
And I'll vote aye. Okay. Did I miss one? Where's the subdivision? Oh, here's the subdivision.
36 is my case.
Oh, 36. Oh, that was-
approval.
Oh, site plan approval, okay.
We're way ahead of you, Paul.
Okay. All right, this is case 2019-36B, site plan approval.
Motion to approve.
Commissioner Lexpati, thank you. Commissioners, thank you. Commissioner Lexpati, and seconded by Commissioner Franklin. Call for the vote. Commissioner Quain?
Aye.
Commissioner Scott Berman?
Aye.
Commissioner Villegas?
Aye.
Commissioner Franklin?
Aye.
Commissioner Lexpati?
Aye.
Commissioner Jeff Berman?
Aye.
Commissioner Matei? Now vote aye. And in case 2019-37P, and this may include amendments as changed by staff.
Motion to approve.
Commissioner Lexpati, you have a second. Commissioner Berman, thank you. Scott Berman seconds. Call for the vote. Commissioner Quain?
Aye.
Commissioner Scott Berman?
Aye.
Commissioner Villegas?
Aye.
Commissioner Franklin?
Aye.
Commissioner Lexpati?
Aye.
Commissioner Jeff Berman?
Aye.
Commissioner Matei?
Aye.
Now vote aye. Motion passes. Okay, again, these cases still have to go before the Board of Trustees for final approval. And is there any other business before the board? None. Thank you for attending this meeting. This meeting is adjourned. Have a good evening.